Welcome back to the Logans Lions Podcast. I'm your host, Logan, and today we are going to be talking about the top 5 Chris Fowler calls throughout his career with calling games with Kirk Herbstreit, I believe since 2015. So first, if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing and liking this video. My name is Logan, and we are just getting started, and this is kind of new to me, so bear with me here. But let's get into our top 5. Number 5, we'll start with Penn State versus Ohio State in 2016. The blocked field goal in Happy Valley. Brent Haley blocked the field goal, took it all the way back for the Penn State touchdown. Really, first big win. They went on to win that one, 24-21. First big win for Penn State and James Franklin in the James Franklin era. They went on to win the Big Ten championship that year alongside Trace McSorley. I think they had Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, and Chris Godwin that year on offense. So pretty explosive offense for the Nittany Lions that year. And that kind of really got them over the hump. James Franklin and Penn State never really got to the promised land. But that was the first big win for Penn State that year. So big time win for Penn State. So, and for Chris Fowler as well, big time call, just really felt the atmosphere there in Happy Valley. So my number 4 is going to be Clemson versus Alabama in the national championship in 2017. This game was awesome. The game was played in Tampa. Jalen Hurts versus Deshaun Watson. This game went back and forth. O.J. Howard made a great play in the second half, early in the third quarter, as he did the year prior. But O.J. Howard scored a big touchdown, and late in the game, Jalen Hurts took the lead for Alabama with 1:15 to go to take a 31-28 lead. That left too much time for Deshaun Watson and Clemson, and Clemson came down the field, and Deshaun Watson hit Hunter Renfrow on a 2-yard touchdown on the game-winning touchdown as time expired. Final score of that one, 35-31. Again, Chris Fowler really embraced that call. I think everything going on in the last 2 drives was just like pretty crazy, but he pretty much captured the moment as best as he could, and really did an amazing job with that. So that's my number 4 call of his best calls. So my number 3 is going to be LSU versus Alabama in 2022. Bryce Young versus Jaden Daniels. LSU coming off of the Ed Orgeron tenure, and Joe Burrow as well. The year prior, they didn't do well, so they ended up firing Ed Orgeron, bring in this Brian Kelly that was very not like traditional, but I mean, to go to LSU for Brian Kelly was a shock to everybody. But in the first year, it paid off for Brian Kelly. They bring in Jaden Daniels from Arizona State, and Bryce Young on the other end was just a second-year guy coming off of a Heisman and really just putting up better numbers. That's one of the 2 guys I think that should have won the Heisman back-to-back years, Lamar and Bryce Young. But they instead gave it to Baker Mayfield and Caleb Williams those separate years. But that game really just ended up being crazy. They went into overtime. Alabama needed a field goal to just make it to overtime, thanks to Will Reichard to tie it up at 24. Alabama scores on their first possession in overtime. And in one play, Jaden Daniels gets it back, scores it, and Brian Kelly decides to go for two and gets it. And I think that game for Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit was one they won't forget. Like, the atmosphere, they ended up storming the field. It was just crazy. And LSU, like I said, ended up making the SEC championship game, ended up losing to Georgia, but that was the one call that really was crazy for me. That is my number 3. My number 2 call on here is going to be Indiana versus Miami this past year, 2026. Fernando Mendoza, 4th and 5, had to get it, and he picked it up with his legs, and he dove for the touchdown, and that really captured the moment for Indiana in a historical year for the Hoosiers. And to do it in Miami Stadium was pretty awesome in the national championship. And to lead Fernando Mendoza, a Heisman-winning quarterback, to lead Indiana to the national championship was pretty amazing. And they look to do it again with a great quarterback, transfer quarterback, Josh Hoover from TCU. So that's my number 2. My number 1 is going to be, without a question, Chris Fowler's flu game, as I would call it. Alabama versus Georgia in 2018. This game was amazing. Like, I think that was the best game I've ever watched. Georgia led the game 13-0 at half. Jalen Hurts starts the game for Alabama, and they come in, or Nick Saban brings in a true freshman, Tua Tagovailoa, and he just lights it up in the second half after suffering a 16-yard loss on the sack in the overtime. And to fire that one to Devonta Smith was really amazing. And to call that for Chris Fowler being sick was pretty amazing. So that is my number 1 pick. And so those are my top 5. Hope you all like my top 5. Another topic is SEC Media Days are coming up. So SEC, ACC, like all the Power Fours were last week and this week. So I'm going to tell you the top 4 teams, one from each conference, that I'm most excited about. Starting in the ACC, I'm most excited about, like, SMU. I know they're really good, but I want to see how Kevin Jennings still does, coming off of a year that didn't really live up to the hype. A Heisman candidate last year. Can he do that again and hopefully bring SMU back to the ACC championship again, that they were there a year before? So that's my ACC. My Big Ten is going to be, everybody's excited about Oregon and all that, but I'm most looking forward to UCLA. They got Nico Iamaleava coming back, a transfer from Tennessee a year or 2 years ago. And now they got Bob Chesney coming in from James Madison and bringing a couple guys from James Madison, a team who made the college football playoff, whether you like it or not. They did make a college football playoff, and Bob Chesney looks to repeat his success at UCLA. So I'm pretty excited for them in the Big Ten. In the Big 12, I'm going to say Oklahoma State. Or Oklahoma State is a team that brings in the North Texas coach, Eric Morris. They also bring transfers like quarterback Drew Mestamaker, who lit up the scoreboard and was one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the group of 5 last year. I'm excited for him. And the Cowboys look to put off the Mike Gundy era, or shake off the Mike Gundy era, and start a new beginning with Eric Morris, and look to get a fresh start. So I'd say Oklahoma State is one of the most teams that I'm looking out for. And finally, in the SEC, it's a tie between 2 teams. It is Auburn and Florida, 2 coaches that bring great group of 5 success in Alex Golish at Auburn and John Summerall at Florida. And John Summerall had made the playoff last season with Tulane. So I'm excited to see, can those 2 programs get back to what they were just a couple of years ago. Really, Florida hadn't gotten back to where they used to be since the Tim Tebow era. And for Auburn, it's been like 8 or 9 years since they gotten back to what they expect to be like. So those are my top 5 teams in each conference. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Sorry there's not too many topics to talk about really in the month of July outside of media days and schedule predictions, but I'll get in the schedule predictions part later on, like probably 2 or 3 weeks from now. So hope you all enjoyed. I'm Logan, and this has been the Logans Lions Podcast, and God bless.